5th grade. Today we're going to work on subtracting decimals. I'm on lesson 11-3 in your workbook. We're going to go to page 186. And on page 186, you are going to do numbers 1 through 13. And I'm going to do a few examples with you. Okay, so just like when adding decimals, when you subtract, you have to make sure you align. So on page 186, okay, number 1 says 52 hundredths minus 25 hundredths. You need to solve. You solve just like you would do with whole numbers. You just have to make sure you put the decimal point. So I can't do 2 minus 5, so I have to regroup. That would be 4/10, and then I have 12 hundredths. 12 minus 5 is 7. 4 minus 2 is 2. Put your decimal point, bring down the 0. So your difference would be 27 hundredths. Okay, let's look at number 6. Here's where you have to make sure that you align. All right, number 6 says 37 hundredths minus n. It tells you that n is 3/10. This is what the problem says. 37 hundredths minus n. n equals 3/10. So I need to do 37 hundredths minus 3/10. Now since I have an empty place value, I'm going to put a 0 because it's after the decimal point. 7 minus 0 is 7. 3 minus 3 is 0. Put your decimal point. So your difference there is 7 hundredths. You have to make sure you put this 0 in the hundredths place. Okay, and then on number 10, it tells you to 10 and 11. It says find the next two terms, then write a pattern rule. So let's look at number 10. Number 10, we have 38 hundredths and then 43 hundredths and then 48 hundredths and then 53 hundredths. Those are commas. Okay, so we can look and we can see that these numbers are getting bigger. So we have to figure out how much is added each time. To figure out how much is added, you have to do the inverse operation. You need to subtract. So let's find out what was added to 38 hundredths to get 43 hundredths. So I'll subtract 43 hundredths minus 38 hundredths. And if I subtract, 13 minus 8 is 5. That'll be a 0. So 5 hundredths. Well, let's check and see if that's what was added to 43 hundredths to get 48 hundredths. So I have 43 hundredths plus 5 hundredths, and I get 48 hundredths. Let's just check to make sure if I add 5 hundredths to 48 hundredths, what I get. So that's 13, so 53 hundredths. So the rule is to add 5 hundredths. So now you need to find the next two terms. So our last thing was 53 hundredths, so add 5 hundredths to that. Make sure you put the 0 in the tenths place. That's an 8 and a 5, so 58 hundredths. Now to find the last term, just add 5 hundredths to 58 hundredths. And number 11, you have to figure out what the pattern is and write the next two terms. All right, I want to go back to number 8. Because number 8 has 3 numbers in it. Okay, it says 2 and 56 hundredths minus 2 and 32 hundredths minus 19 hundredths. So you need to do two problems. You're going to start with 2 and 56 hundredths minus 2 and 32 hundredths. Okay, and 6 minus 2 is 4, 5 minus 3 is 2, and that's 0. Now you need to subtract 19 hundredths from 24 hundredths. That's your second problem. Okay, you can't do all this at one time. You have to do it in 2 steps. Okay, so I know that 24 minus 19 is 5, but just to make sure you have a 0 in the correct place. 14 minus 9 is 5. 1 minus 1 is 0. You have to put that 0 in the tenths place because the difference is 5 hundredths. So you have to make sure the 0 is there. All right, now I'm going to go on to number 12. Number 12 says, Elise receives a paycheck for $89.25. She spends $4.99 on modeling clay and $6.23 on glaze. How much money does Elise have left? First estimate, and then find the exact answer. So there are two parts to this. You have to estimate and do the exact answer. I'm going to get you started on it. So, I'm going to do a bar. Okay, I'm going to do the estimating part. We're going to put our total. She has $89.25. Well, if I round $89.25 to the nearest dollar, that would be $89. Okay, so that's how much money she has, $89. Okay, she spent $4.99 on clay. Well, I'm going to round clay to the nearest dollar, and that would be $5. Okay, and then she spent $6.23 on glaze. Okay, I'm going to round that to the nearest dollar, and that would be $6. And I want to know how much money she has left. And that would go right here. So I know that I have to add 5 plus 6 to get 11. And then to find my missing part, I subtract. $89 minus $11 equals $78. So that is the first part. Elise has about $78 left. Now you need to do the exact same thing except with the actual numbers to solve the second part. Okay, this is the estimate. Now you need to find the exact answer by using the exact numbers. Okay, now number 13. And you don't have to do 14 and 15. You can stop at 13. Number 14 says a number is added to 53 hundredths, then 38 hundredths is subtracted from the sum. The answer is 42 hundredths. What is the number? Well, I don't want to do that exact problem for you. I'm going to do one that's similar to that. Okay, I'm going to say, this is number 13. This is an example, not the exact problem. Okay, a number is added to 68 hundredths. Then 25 hundredths is subtracted from the sum. I'm using the exact same wording. I'm just using different numbers. So you're going to have to do the same thing that I'm doing here from the sum. The answer is 72 hundredths. Okay, so the problem on 13 is just like this, but different numbers. So I'm going to solve this by working backwards. I'm going to start with 72 hundredths because that's where I end up. Okay, and it says that 25 hundredths is subtracted. Well, I'm going to do the opposite, so I'm going to add 25 hundredths to what I end up with. So I'll add the 25 hundredths. It'll be 97 hundredths. Okay, and then 68 hundredths was added. Well, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 68 hundredths. So I'll take 97 hundredths minus 68 hundredths because I'm doing the opposite. So I need to regroup. 17 minus 8 is 9. 8 minus 6 is 2. All right, 29 hundredths. Okay, so that is what n is. N equals 29 hundredths. And let's check to make sure it works. So if I take 29 hundredths and I'm going to add it to 68 hundredths, 9 plus 8 is 17. That's 97 hundredths. Now I'm going to subtract 25 hundredths from that. So minus 25 hundredths. 7 minus 5 is 2. 9 minus 2 is 7. And the answer is 72 hundredths. So that is exactly what you are going to do. Follow the same steps. It's just different numbers on number 13. You do not have to do 14 and 15.